The rain drummed against the windows of the small apartment as Junitor carefully counted the crumpled bills in his worn wallet. His 3 children, Emma, 8, Alex, 6, and little Sophie, 4, sat quietly at the kitchen table, their eyes filled with hope as they watched their father. "Daddy, are we still going to the fancy restaurant tonight?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She had been talking about this dinner for weeks, ever since Junitor had promised them a special night out. Junitor's heart ached as he looked at his children's expectant faces. For months, he had been working multiple jobs, or so they believed. Every morning, he would leave their modest apartment wearing his old, patched clothes, carrying a lunchbox that had seen better days. His children knew him only as their hard-working father who struggled to make ends meet, just like their late mother Sarah had always taught them, that wealth didn't define a person's worth. "Yes, sweetheart," Junitor smiled, closing his wallet. "Tonight is going to be very special." What his children didn't know was that Junitor Montenegro was one of the city's most successful restaurateurs. He owned a chain of 5-star restaurants, including the Golden Palace, the very restaurant he was taking them to tonight. But after Sarah's death 2 years ago, he had made a conscious decision to raise his children with humility and gratitude, away from the privileged bubble that wealth could create. As they walked through the city streets, Junitor noticed how his children's eyes widened when they approached the magnificent glass building with golden letters spelling, the Golden Palace. The valet parking, the red carpet, the elegantly dressed guests, everything seemed like a fairy tale to them. "Daddy, are you sure we can afford this?" Alex whispered, tugging at his father's sleeve. "This place looks really, really expensive." Junitor knelt down to his son's level, his heart swelling with pride at his children's consideration. "Sometimes, son, life gives us beautiful surprises. Tonight is one of those nights." As they entered the restaurant, the maitre d', James, nearly dropped his clipboard when he saw his boss dressed in humble clothes with 3 children. Junitor caught his eye and gave an almost imperceptible shake of his head, a signal they had practiced for moments like this. "Good evening, sir." "Right this way, please," James said professionally, though his voice carried a hint of confusion. The hostess led them to a corner table with a perfect view of the city skyline. Emma gasped at the crystal chandeliers, Alex marveled at the live piano music, and little Sophie clapped her hands at the dancing fountain in the center of the restaurant. "Daddy, this is like a palace," Sophie exclaimed, bouncing in her chair. Other diners began to notice the family, a man in worn clothes and 3 children who clearly didn't belong in such an upscale establishment. Some whispered among themselves, their expressions ranging from curiosity to judgment. "Excuse me," a well-dressed woman approached their table, her voice dripping with condescension. "I think there might be some mistake. This restaurant has a strict dress code." Junitor felt his children shrink back in embarrassment. Emma's cheeks flushed red, and Alex looked down at his clean but simple clothes with shame. This was exactly what Junitor had hoped to avoid, yet also what he needed his children to experience. "We're fine here, thank you," Junitor replied calmly, placing protective hands on his children's shoulders. The woman persisted, "But surely you realize this meal will cost more than most people make in a week. Perhaps there's a more suitable establishment down the street?" The entire restaurant had gone quiet now, all eyes on their table. Junitor saw tears forming in Emma's eyes, and his protective instincts flared. But then he remembered his purpose. This was a teaching moment, not just for his children, but for everyone present. He stood up slowly, his demeanor shifting from humble father to confident leader. "James," he called to the maitre d', his voice carrying an authority that made everyone freeze. "Could you please bring me tonight's guest list and the reservation book?" James hurried over, his face pale. "Right away, Mr. Montenegro." The mention of the name sent a ripple through the restaurant. Montenegro, everyone in the city knew that name. It was synonymous with the finest dining establishments, luxury, and success. "Children," Junitor turned to his wide-eyed kids, "I need to tell you something very important." He knelt down to their level again, his voice gentle but clear enough for nearby tables to hear. This restaurant, all of these restaurants in the city, they belong to us. I own them. The silence was deafening. Emma's mouth fell open, Alex blinked rapidly as if trying to process the information, and Sophie tilted her head in confusion. But Daddy, Emma whispered, you said we didn't have much money. You wear old clothes and work so hard. I do work hard, sweetheart, but not because I have to, because I choose to. I wanted you to understand that a person's worth isn't measured by their bank account or their clothes. I wanted you to learn kindness, humility, and gratitude before you learned about wealth. He turned to address the woman who had challenged them, his voice kind but firm. Madam, you judged my family based on our appearance. My children, who have more compassion in their little fingers than many adults show in a lifetime, were made to feel unwelcome in a place that was built to welcome everyone. The woman's face had gone from smug superiority to mortified embarrassment. But here's what I want my children to learn from tonight, Junitor continued, pulling his kids close. We don't let wealth change who we are. We treat everyone with respect, regardless of how they're dressed or how much money they have. And we never, ever make anyone feel small because of their circumstances. He looked around the restaurant, addressing everyone present. Tonight, dinner is on the house for everyone here. Not because I'm showing off, but because I want my children to see that when you're blessed, you share those blessings. The restaurant erupted in applause. The woman who had confronted them approached with tears in her eyes. I owe you and your children an apology. I judged you unfairly. Emma, with wisdom beyond her years, smiled at the woman. It's okay. Daddy says everyone makes mistakes. What matters is that we learn from them. As the evening continued, Junitor watched his children interact with other diners, sharing stories and laughter. They treated everyone the same way they always had, with genuine warmth and interest. Later that night, as they walked home under the starlit sky, Alex looked up at his father. Daddy, can we still live in our small apartment? I like it there. Of course, son. Home isn't about how big or fancy it is. It's about the love we share. Emma added thoughtfully, and Daddy? I'm glad you taught us to be kind first, before we knew about the money. I think it made us better people. Junitor stopped walking and hugged his children tightly, tears streaming down his face. You three are my greatest treasures. Not the restaurants, not the money, you. Moral: true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the richness of character, the depth of compassion, and the strength of family bonds. When we teach our children humility before privilege, kindness before criticism, and gratitude before entitlement, we give them treasures that no amount of money can buy. A person's worth is measured not by what they own, but by how they treat others, especially those they perceive as having less than themselves. What did you think of Junitor's approach to parenting? Share this story if it touched your heart and reminded you that true wealth comes from within.